Perfect. Okay, so let's rattle through these sections then. We've got education, license and certifications, and volunteer experience. This is just to polish us up and make us look more rounded, and it's like what we do on a CV, I guess.
Yeah, it is, and it's got some value, but again, don't overthink it. Put as much information in as you can that's relevant about you, because what LinkedIn will do is it will show you when that is relevant or connecting to a prospect or customer. So LinkedIn has ways of showing you things that you have in common, whether by coincidence, maybe you went to the same school, or maybe you're in the same groups, or you have the same volunteering experience. LinkedIn will show you those connections. So the more you put in, it will help LinkedIn provide value back to you. But again, no huge impact in these areas. It's one of those ones that when you do the big profile update, that you want to cover all those key areas, but they're not things you'll need to update on a frequent basis unless you've got new things to put in.
Sure. Okay, so 2 final sections, and then we'll wrap up the show with these. So skills and endorsements. So again, I'm on your profile, Daniel. Social selling, 99 plus. Keynote speaker, 99 plus. Training, 99 plus. How much effort have you put into getting those numbers, and how important are they? For me, looking at that is clear social proof from my perspective, outside looking in, that you are somewhat of an expert at the very minimum. Because getting 100 people to do anything is difficult. Getting 100 people to put the thumb up as Daniel Disney, a great keynote speaker, I feel like that has real value.
So I'm going to contradict you a bit, okay. Will. So in complete honesty, I have made zero effort to get those. And in my experience, they tend to have zero impact or influence in the process. Now, it's quite interesting to see you say that it's provided a bit of potential social proof to you, and it will have some level of impact. But here's the kind of reality around skills and endorsements. For most people who use LinkedIn, they kind of know that most of the people giving out endorsements on skills don't know you. So a lot of the people, certainly when I started using LinkedIn, that would endorse me for skills before they were things like social selling and speaking, I had no idea who they were. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. They would endorse me for 10 plus skills, and then they'd send me a message saying, "Hey, Dan, I've just endorsed you for 10 skills. Can you do the same for me?" And LinkedIn kind of didn't really create a vetting process with skills and endorsements. So the reality is anyone can endorse you. And so the credibility is pretty low. What I would suggest, what you can control is, obviously you can see the 3 that sit there. You could then open it up and see all the other skills that I've been endorsed for. You can choose the 3 that sit at the top. So I would recommend making those 3 the most relevant to you now, hence why mine are social selling, keynote speaking, and I can't remember what the other one was. Make sure you choose the right 3. And once you've got those 3 at the top, people will naturally start to endorse those above your other ones. But don't worry too much about the number. It will grow over time. But the impact it has overall from a sales perspective, again, if someone's made it that far down your profile, that's not going to provide a huge impact. What follows next is going to provide 100 times the impact, and that's the recommendation section.
And just before we get to that, just for as a case study, I've made no effort with this whatsoever. I've got podcasting at 95, sales at 91, business strategy at 74, and then there's a ton of others that are like 70 to 50 odd. So yeah, I take back everything that I said, but I take back everything I said, other than me personally, looking at your profile, not knowing what you just described, I would have thought that as social proof. Now you've just pulled the rug from under the carpet, whatever the saying is. You've knocked the table legs out and ruined that whole charade for me. So with that said, because I'm looking at my recommendations versus your recommendations here, you put me to shame, Daniel. Tell us about recommendations, and because clearly there's a bit of text that has to go along with this, as opposed to just clicking a button. There's a little more effort, friction. People are putting themselves on the line by giving a recommendation, aren't they?
Yeah, so we live in a review and recommendation world, Will. I'm sure you'll agree with. I tend not to buy anything online unless I see positive reviews, especially on Amazon. Yep. I'm not going to buy anything unless it's got good reviews. And for most websites out there, I will look for that social proof. And it's one of the best features I think LinkedIn put in at the start was a recommendation piece, because it allows your prospects and customers to hear from the most trustworthy source, which is a happy existing customer of yours. There is no one more trustworthy than that. So it's one of the best parts of your profile, but it does take effort. A lot of people don't just go out and give recommendations for nothing. You do have to ask. So I recommend tying this in with referrals, because these are the two things that a lot of salespeople usually feel uncomfortable asking for, quite scared to ask for it. So do them both together. Every time you close a sale, you win a new customer, pick up the phone or send them an email and just say, "Hey, Will, really excited to work for you. Can't wait to come and train the team. If you get a couple of minutes, would you mind just writing me a quick recommendation on my LinkedIn profile? Be more than happy to do the same for you. And also, do you know a few people who might also be interested in this?" You get a recommendation, you get a referral. The reality is, as you know as well as I do, a lot of people are happy to do it. They're happy to give you a recommendation, to write your recommendation, because it makes them feel good for doing it. And they're happy to give you referrals because, again, we love to help. We love to give value as part of our sort of human nature. So don't be scared of it. But yeah, your recommendation section is a huge asset on your profile. You just need to make a conscious effort on a regular basis. I'd bake this into your monthly KPIs to try and get a few new recommendations each and every month. And it, like we were talking about, it's an asset. It's going to continually elevate your profile. The more recommendations you get, it's going to make your profile look better, and you can use them as content. So you can take little screenshots. You've got mini testimonials, mini case studies that you can share as posts, that can, again, really help push out that social proof.
So I just have a folder on my desktop just called testimonials. And every time someone LinkedIn messages me or emails me or whatever it is, sends me a carrier pigeon, I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll just stick it in that folder. What I should be doing is every time someone says, "Love the podcast, Will, no need for reply, just thanks for putting out content," I should, especially on LinkedIn, I should just redirect them to the recommendations page and ask them for a recommendation, because that's what they've done inadvertently, isn't it? I've got 8 on here, so thank you for David, Aaron, Adam, a bunch of people. But I've made no effort with this, and I feel like you're right. Maybe this over time will become higher and higher up the LinkedIn profile page, because this is something that's very difficult to game. It's got the individual's face, their headline, and then what they're saying about you on the side. Do you think LinkedIn would ever get to the point where it would become reviews rather than recommendations? And if you have a really bad experience with someone, you could perhaps call them out on the platform. Do you think that would ever happen?
It's interesting. It may happen, Will. One of the things I like at the moment, certainly for obvious reasons, is you have to approve a recommendation. So it doesn't go directly on your profile. It's not like a Google review where it goes out there whether it's good or bad. If someone writes you a bad recommendation, you don't have to post it. So you're in control of that. That's quite an interesting thought as to whether LinkedIn may change it to make it open and honest. Yeah, it's hard to imagine there's going to be pros and cons to that type of approach. But you're absolutely right. There's no reason why the profile should be sort of this glazed, perfect image that you can't have a place to show either a rating or an opportunity for people to share negative feedback. But again, those things will happen. So whilst it may not be in the recommendation on your profile, if people aren't happy with you, they can and sometimes do just post about it directly to their audience on LinkedIn. Right or wrong, these are some of the realities of what's happening.
Sure. Maybe that's an episode in itself, although I don't know how relevant it is to someone with perhaps a smaller audience. But I've had a couple of scenarios. I'll be polite. One person had tried to kick up a fuss, the fact that it's called the Salesman Podcast, not the Salesperson Podcast. That was easily dealt with. I just got a bunch of female sales leaders and experts who've been on the show just to comment on the post, and it disappeared immediately. Yeah, I don't know how applicable that is. Email me or Daniel if you think that's something like brand management. It's almost brand security management. That'll become a business in its own right in the future. But how relevant it is on LinkedIn specifically, I'm not sure. Because saying that, Daniel, everything is very positive on LinkedIn, on your profile anyway. I guess you're in control of a lot of it. So if you're going to write something damning about yourself, you're probably doing it wrong in the first place. But everything is a positive review, a recommendation, this and that. There is no opportunity to not curate the perfect caricature or avatar of yourself. So we're crazy if other people, our competitors, are building that perfect individual and we're not.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Will. And it's one of those realities. This is more focused on buyers than it is salespeople because there's little you can do. You want to make yourself look as good as possible. But for all buyers out there, you really need to make sure you're doing your homework because everyone's going to look great on LinkedIn, as everyone does on any social media network. We all paint this perfect picture. We don't share. I mean, LinkedIn's probably one of the better platforms when it comes to content and personal brands that you see a lot more people being more authentic now and sharing as much failure and struggle as they do successes, which I think is really good. It's healthy. It paints a much more balanced and complete picture. But from a buying perspective, when you're looking through a profile, make sure you do your fact checking. Make sure you do your homework. And when it comes to recommendations, as an example, you know, you want to look for real recommendations from real, relevant, credible people. So, if you are the VP of marketing and you're looking to buy a marketing relevant service, you want to look for recommendations from other VPs of marketing. There's no point reading recommendations from different sectors, different positions, from different roles that person has had, because whilst it may show that they were good in those other positions, it doesn't necessarily prove that they're good in this current role. So make sure you're looking for relevant, up-to-date insights and just do your homework, do your fact checking, because everyone's going to look pretty good on LinkedIn.
So, final few things. So I just noticed something else as I was going through the people that you follow or your interests. Does it make any difference to have a gold LinkedIn badge next to our name versus a blue one? Do you think anyone's paying attention to that?
No, not too much attention. All I'd recommend, and this tees back to the activity section where it showed your follower number, with your content and also the people you follow. Just try and make sure it's relevant to your industry, to your product, to your service. If it's too different, then it's just going to dilute your profile. You want to make sure people are reading it and they know who you are, what you do, where you work, what industry you're in. So try and make it all align to that, make it as relevant as possible to that central place. So you'll notice, hopefully on mine, everything's pretty much aligned to sales, LinkedIn, and social selling. It's not like I'm following some sort of puppy humor page or sharing dog related content. It's all focused on that. Otherwise it would just confuse and dilute the potential there.
Sure. Yeah, you don't want to be selling accounting software and be the influencers that you follow are all bikini models, right?
Exactly that, Will. Couldn't have put it better myself.
I'm rapidly deleting who I'm following on LinkedIn right now just to rebalance things. Okay, so I feel like we've covered that in depth enough for a audio video show here. Daniel, is there anything else that stands out that we've not covered that would be valuable just to tack onto the end of this episode?
No, I think this is a lot more in depth into profiles than I expected, but I'm really glad. I think we've covered pretty much a lot of the key areas. So listen, watch, go and update your profiles, and I guarantee a lot of you will be able to upgrade your profiles quite significantly, and that's going to have a huge impact on your ability to become better social sellers.